What's going on, guys? It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. And this one I'm going to go over my 5 worst quarterback values ahead of the 2023 fantasy football season. These are guys that I don't find myself drafting for whichever reasons I'll state following this intro. This will be the 6th video of the series here. I've already done my best values at the quarterback position and the best and worst values at both the running back and wide receiver positions. So if you haven't watched those videos, please do go check those out. I think they're really useful. And if you have any questions or disagreements or any players I didn't bring up, please do bring them up in the comments. And I'd love to interact with you guys and see if we can come to some sort of consensus there. So yeah, I love making these videos. I found it to be really useful. Just finished up doing my projections and rankings. This has helped me do a deep dive into those and see where I'm right and where I'm wrong. And I'll be getting my rankings and projections up for free on my website as well by this weekend, so you guys can have those and use those as much as you want. So yeah, with that, super excited. If this is your first time on the channel, thank you for stopping by. If you do get anything out of the video, please do take a minute to like the video, subscribe to the channel so you can see more videos like this and really help me grow the channel as well. So yeah, with that, thanks very much, and let's get into the first player. So the first quarterback that I found myself drafting almost none of is Justin Fields. I've got him ranked as my quarterback 13, so not awful, but he's being drafted as the quarterback 6, and I'm giving him 500 more passing yards than he had last season, 5 more passing touchdowns, and I'm giving him more carries and more rushing yards than he had last season. In fact, I'm actively projecting him to just barely break the quarterback rushing yard record in a season, and he still just isn't great. So for Fields to really pay off on this ADP of being quarterback 6, he's going to have to break the quarterback rushing record by a lot, which I don't know how realistic that is. I'm projecting him for over 1,200 rushing yards already. He'd probably need closer to 1,500 for that to be real great value, or he's just going to need to take a Jalen Hurts level upgrade in this passing game. We're going to need to see him jump to like a 4,000 yard or 30 passing touchdown passer, and I just don't really see that happening. As much as DJ Moore is a great receiver, I don't think he's the kind of guy that's going to turn Justin Fields from a 2,200 yard passer to a 4,000 yard passer this season. That seems very unrealistic. And on top of that, I've got some injury concerns with Justin Fields. I think this is still going to be a team that's pretty slow paced. They're really going to try and run the ball as much as they can. They've got good enough running backs to do that. So I think there's really limited passing upside for Justin Fields, who's really just going to have to break the mold from a rushing standpoint. And I just don't think he can do that all season. So I like the talent. I think he's a really good player, but I just don't see why he's being drafted as the quarterback 6. Next up, I've got Anthony Richardson here. I'm currently projecting him to be my quarterback 25, despite an ADP of quarterback 14. And I get why people are drafting him so high, especially outside of the top 12, because they're just shooting for that upside. And it's certainly something I can get behind if you really want to draft Anthony Richardson as your quarterback too. But I think in general, this Colts offense is just going to stink. They have a questionable offensive line. It really wasn't great last year. Pittman is the only real proven wide receiver they have on this team. Alec Pierce was okay last year. They drafted Josh Downs. They have Isaiah McKenzie. There's nobody really at tight end that stands out. Like Jelani Woods is okay, but there's not enough there to really get you excited about the weapons this guy has to throw the ball to. And he wasn't a very well developed passer in college either. He's going to take some time to get ready and really be a truly competent NFL quarterback. So I think there are going to be some weeks where he puts up spike production and he breaks off a 50-yard, 60-yard rushing touchdown. Then he ends up having a really good week just because of that one play. But when they get near the goal line, I think it's still going to be mostly JT. Anthony Richardson will steal some of that, but Richardson is not going to score enough this season, just from a touchdown standpoint or from a yardage standpoint, to really produce anywhere near quarterback 1 numbers. I'm projecting him for over 800 rushing yards, which is really great for a rookie, but I just don't see him getting enough on the ground to make up for the inefficiency he's going to have through the air. Next up, I've got Deshaun Watson. I've got him ranked as my quarterback 14, despite an ADP of quarterback 9, and I think it's pretty reasonable for me to have him at quarterback 14 right now. He was honestly putrid last season. This Browns offense got worse going from Jacoby Brissett to him, and that's certainly not something you want to say about your franchise quarterback. His wide receiver 1, Amari Cooper, is not getting any younger. He's going to go into the season at 29, finish at around 30 years old. So there's certainly the possibility for Amari Cooper to fall off a cliff, although I'm not projecting that. But projecting him as high as quarterback 9 just requires a lot of assumptions. To get him there, you need to assume that this Browns offense passes a lot more than they did last offseason. You then need to assume that Deshaun Watson is actually good again, even though he wasn't at all last season and didn't play the whole year and a half before that. And you also need to assume that somebody other than Amari Cooper steps up in the passing game. Maybe Elijah Moore steps up and is really good. Maybe David Njoku's that guy, but I don't really see any surefire things happening there. So I think you need a lot to go right for Deshaun Watson to pay off here, and there's certainly a world where he's just way worse than that quarterback 9. He doesn't offer the same rushing upside that he did during his first few years in the league. This is a team that's still going to really move the ball through Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's going to be their guy when they get in close. So I love Nick Chubb in fantasy because I think he's got a real stranglehold on a lot of the touches in this offense. But I don't think Deshaun Watson really has that top five quarterback upside anymore, and there's certainly a lot more downside. Next up, I've got Lamar Jackson. I've currently got him ranked as my quarterback 10 despite an ADP of quarterback 5. And honestly, let's be real, Lamar Jackson's a really great player, but if they pass a lot more, which is something that they've certainly hinted towards wanting to do this season, it does actually limit what we expect Lamar Jackson to do from a fantasy standpoint. He's at his most dangerous when he's running the ball on the ground, and that carries over to fantasy football as well. We get a lot more production from a fantasy standpoint for yards and touchdowns gained on the ground than what we do through the air. So I think if you limit the amount of opportunities Lamar Jackson gets to run the ball, and on top of that you have a healthy J.K. Dobbins, a healthy Gus Edwards coming into the season, then you're going to really have limited opportunities for Lamar Jackson to run the ball both between the 20s and in the red zone. I think Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are going to steal a lot of those red zone touchdowns. And on top of that, there's still just a really questionable wide receiver core here. They spent a lot of money getting Odell Beckham, who I think is washed. They spent a first-round pick on Zay Flowers, who I don't really love. I think Bateman is maybe their best receiver still, but he's dealing with injuries in camp. So to me, it's real possible that they still only have a truly talented tight end, and that's it in this offense. I think that we might end up seeing this offense be a lot closer to what it was last year, where they have to run the ball a lot. They have to throw the ball to the tight end, and the Lamar Jackson scrambles a little bit. But these receivers aren't great. Lamar Jackson himself has been banged up over the last couple of years. He hasn't really had a great season since his MVP season, so I think a lot of people are still reaching for that one good year he had. And otherwise, I just don't see that upside unless he gets back to rushing the ball for over 1,000 yards, or if he somehow puts up a spike 40 touchdown season, which I don't see happening with the wide receiver core he has. And last year, I've got Dak Prescott. This one's kind of surprised me because I'm generally reasonably high on Dak, but I started him out as my quarterback 17 despite an ADP of quarterback 10, and I think there's actually a lot of reasons for this. The Cowboys have stated that they want to slow down the pace of play. They feel that scoring too quickly often didn't give their defense an opportunity to rest, and it made it difficult for their defense to once they got into the playoffs. I think that's a very wrong approach, but the Cowboys clearly agreed with that. They fired Kellen Moore. They brought in Brian Schottenheimer. This is going to be a team that wants to run the ball. And I'm still actually projecting Dak to be pretty efficient. I'm projecting him to throw for over 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns. But with the limited rushing upside he offers at this stage in his career, the Cowboys are going into a season where they're going to want to lean on the running game, and if they can do that, then they're not going to pass the ball as much as we'd hope for them to do. I still think CeeDee Lamb's going to be great. I think Brandon Cooks can be a decent wide receiver 3 in fantasy, but I think it's going to be tough for these guys to put up truly elite numbers because of the limited volume. I will say that if the Cowboys go into the season with this current running back depth chart where they've got Tony Pollard, Deuce Vaughn, and Ronald Jones, then maybe I'll actually increase my projections for Dak a little bit and make them a little bit less run heavy because I don't think these guys could take on that many carries, but I still sort of feel like Ezekiel Elliott's going to end up back on this team on a lesser deal. He's still going to get the goal line work. He's still going to get a lot of carries, and it's going to really make this team a pretty run-first team. So in that case, I just don't see Dak Prescott having any sort of true ceiling, so I generally just don't find myself drafting him. So that'll do it for this video. Up next, I'll be bringing you guys my 5 best tight end values, and then shortly after that, I'll give you my 5 worst tight end values. And then we'll move on to some more mock drafts and draft strategy stuff. I'll touch on sleepers and breakout players and all that. So really getting into the thick of it this offseason. Really love making these videos. It's been a lot of fun. Getting super excited for football to start, even though it's about 3 months away. And if this was your first time on the channel, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, please do take a minute to like the video. You can subscribe to the channel as well so you get more videos like this. It really helps the channel grow. At the time of this recording, we're around 330 subscribers. I'd love to somehow hit 1,000 by the end of the season. I know that's a bit of a stretch, but I think we can do it if we really keep going at it. So really love all the support you guys have been given. Love interacting with you guys. So if you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'll respond to as many as I can. I feel like I do a pretty good job getting back to all of them. So love doing that. Love interacting with you guys, and I love making these videos. So yeah, with that, thank you very much, and I'll catch you next time.